I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is PsycHack's Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is love is hard. And if you appreciate how hard love is, you will begin to understand why there is so little of it in the world. Now, in a talk like this, we have to begin by clarifying definitions because love means 100 different things to 100 different people. I'll begin defining it negatively. Love is not a feeling, like limerence. In fact, love has little, if anything, to do with feelings. What's more, love is not the same as getting along with someone or having a successful relationship. Though both of those things can be hard, love is infinitely harder. And finally, love is definitely not the same as being nice or practicing the kind of soft-headed, foolish indulgence that passes for compassion in today's day and age. So, what is love? As I discuss in my book, love is sacrifice for the good of the other. If it ever is accompanied by a feeling, and it often isn't, it's the feeling of the humiliated self triumphant. The feeling accompaniment of love is passion, but passion in its true classical sense, namely suffering, as in the Passion of the Martyrs. It may be an exultant, ennobling suffering, but it is a suffering nonetheless. In any case, love is sacrifice for the good of the other, and the bigger the sacrifice and the more useful the good, the greater the love. And I'm modeling this conception of love after the life of Jesus, who, irrespective of your religious beliefs, was clearly a great master. Now, among other things, Jesus told us to love our enemies. And this is our first clue that love has nothing to do with emotions. Because if you feel positively about people who might actively be trying to kill you, you are probably not loving. You are psychotic. Like, it's not really natural to feel jolly good about people who hate you. In fact, love doesn't even involve liking the other person. You can dislike people and still love them, in the sense that you respect their intrinsic value and wish to see them free of the ignorance or delusion that blinds them. It's also pretty clear that Jesus wasn't always very nice, at least in the sense that your Aunt Karen would understand that word. There certainly wasn't anything nice about Jesus going into the temple and turning over the tables of the money changers. But what they were doing was wrong. They were polluting a sacred space, and they were deaf to reason and appeal. The money changers were willful in their corruption, and on some level, allowing others to exist in a state of willful corruption is not love, but rather enabling or indulgence. It kind of gives up on the other as a lost cause, which is something that love would never do. What love does do, namely sacrifice for the good of the other, is very, very hard. Consider this. In the Christian tradition, Jesus is divine. He is the Son of God. On some level, there was nothing he couldn't do if he so willed. That said, we don't know much about his life. In the scriptures, we kind of lose track of him until he's around 30, which is when he begins to preach and perform his miracles. And he does this for all of 3 years before he's crucified at 33. When I consider the life of Jesus, one of the takeaways for me is that even someone as divine and perfect as Jesus couldn't love for more than 3 years. It only took 3 years for his entire physical and material life to be ground to dust in the service of selfless devotion to others. And that actually could be impressive. Like, we can certainly conceive of that process taking even less time. And if the Son of God didn't love for more than 3 years, what kind of expectations do you hold out for other people? Are you finally ready to understand how relationships really work? Then get your hands on my book, The Value of Others: How to Get and Keep More of What You Want in the Sexual Marketplace. Learn what actually moves the needle, why relationships fail, and how to position yourself for success in this strange new world of mating and dating. Over 100,000 copies sold. Get yours today. Now available in ebook, audiobook, and paperback formats. The links are in the description. Now, I'm not saying that humans aren't capable of love. They are. But this kind of love is exceedingly rare. The closest I've come to observing this love in others was when I was working with cancer patients and their caregivers. And while the caregivers didn't always act altruistically or even selflessly, when they did choose to step fully into the role their oaths demanded, they were the men and women who, for me, most closely approximated this definition of love. Being the spouse of a terminally ill patient is often an emotionally brutal, demanding, and underappreciated task. After all, it's the patients themselves who tend to get most of the love and support, right? It's also a labor that has no clearly defined endpoint. Could take 6 months, could take 6 years. But let me tell you, at the end of that journey, when they finally see their spouses off to their long rests, there is often nothing left of them. The surviving caregivers might be financially drained or even bankrupt. In fact, 1 in 3 bankruptcies in America are caused by medical expenses. They might be emotionally devastated, intellectually exhausted, and spiritually depleted. Like the giving tree at the end of Silverstein's book, they are often stumps with nothing left to give. Of course, there is something very virtuous, very respectable, if not ennobling, about this kind of love. And we certainly appreciate it in others. But I think very few people are praying for the opportunity to reduce themselves to nothing in the service of the other. But that's what love ultimately requires. It's also worth noting that I saw very few of these caregivers remarry. This is how we can understand that love has nothing to do, or little to do, with successful relationships, which, to my mind, are more the result of a satisfying exchange of value. Occasionally, people balk at my definition of love and say, Orion, well, that's just unsustainable. And I respond, yeah, that's absolutely correct. Love is unsustainable. That's my point. Taken to its extreme, it will strip you of everything in the crucible of your ordeal. And that's typically when they start to hedge. Well, okay, good relationships need love and boundaries. And that's not true. I mean, it may be true that good relationships need boundaries, agreed, but love and boundaries are actually antithetical to each other. That they often don't appear so is due to the fact that people have an insipid or emotional conceptualization of love. At best, boundaries mean that you love to a point, namely the point at which you choose something else over the good of the other. And when you uphold a boundary, you are functionally saying that you love those things more than you love the other person. That you love your sanity or your comfort or your money or your lifestyle or your peace of mind more than the other person. And you know what? That is perfectly okay. It is perfectly okay to have boundaries in your relationships and to love others to a point. But it would be difficult to argue that the person who chooses a boundary over sacrifice is being loving. People will do all kinds of mental gymnastics to prevent themselves from thinking this, because people generally have a problem thinking of themselves as selfish. But I don't see any way around this. I mean, Jesus didn't say while he was getting nailed to his cross, ouch, guys, boundaries, this is not okay. In fact, it's abuse. That's it. I'm no longer willing to sacrifice myself for your good. Quite the contrary. His sacrifice was especially for those people who he understood knew not what they did. It might be fair to say that the best of which most of us are capable is loving to a point. And that is likely because the vast majority of us have yet to realize the divine within. So let's be patient with ourselves and others. If you're ready for more, love is always ready for you, and you don't need to be in a relationship to enter into it. Just remember that love has no boundaries. And that's what makes love very, very powerful and also very, very dangerous. And it's dangerous precisely because it might just be the only force ultimately capable of subverting the corruption of the world. What do you think? Does this fit with your own experience? Let me know in the comments below. And please, send this to someone who you think might benefit from its message. Private person, an influencer. I know you know somebody who needs to hear this. because it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. Now, I have a lot of services these days, so I'm going to consolidate my pitch. So I have a lot of extra value for you elsewhere. I have a free weekly newsletter. I have the opportunity to book paid one-on-one consultations with yours truly. I also have my books, my best-selling book on relationships, The Value of Others, where I talk about love in particular, and my novel about the final days of Vincent van Gogh, Starry Night. I have my agent, Orion AI, providing round-the-clock counsel whenever you need it. And I have my private community, the Captain's Quarters, where, among other things, I respond to your issues in real time in live group consultation calls. The links to everything are in the description below. Check them out. There's a lot of value there that I can't provide here. As always, I appreciate your support, and thank you for listening.